I know last night's game really sucked, but there was still a ton of great outcomes in this series. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. Ladies and gentlemen, the Red Sox have won a series. It feels like it has been a little bit now since we've been able to say that. They took 2 out of 3 games from the Tampa Bay Rays, officially putting them at 85-71 on the season. Good for the second wild card spot. 2 games behind the New York Yankees, 1 game ahead of both the Cleveland Guardians and the Houston Astros. And I know it doesn't feel like it because last night's game was so miserable. I mean, there were just problems everywhere, weren't there? Base path management, player and coaches. You had defensive issues that cost runs. You had pitching issues that cost runs. Nathaniel Lowe felt like he came up in like 8 different situations and couldn't get the job done, which was not great. Alex Cora totally mismanaged the 8th inning in that bullpen, right? There were a million different ways the Red Sox lost that game, but if you take a look at the series as a whole, I think you could still sit there and say that overwhelmingly this was a positive series for the Boston Red Sox, specifically on the offensive side of things, where it did 2 really big things. As we've been talking about this entire time, basically since Roman Anthony went down, Alex Bregman is the heart and soul of this offense, right? He's going to be the guy that determines whether it does well or whether it does poorly. In this series, you saw what happens when he's going well, right? He had a hit in every single game, 5 hits total, an RBI in every single game, which is maybe the big thing. He had his first real home run in a very long time, walked 4 times in this series, only struck out once. This is what we've been dying to see. He isn't blowing the cover off the baseball, but I don't really care. Right? I don't care if the underlying metrics are saying he's just getting a little bit lucky, but he's able to put the ball up the middle or whatever. Right now, the only thing I care about is getting results, and Alex Bregman has started to get those results. This offense does nothing if Alex Bregman is not a part of it, so to see that come through, right now, he's finally starting to get the job done. The other guy who I thought was a really great sign in this series was Ceddanne Rafaela, who really hasn't given you anything. Ceddanne's been negative basically since the second half began. However, in this series, he had 6 hits, 2 doubles, scored 4 runs, and drove in 2 while only striking out 2 times. You look back on the hottest the Red Sox were this season. Outside of Roman Anthony, it was always one of these 2 guys who were at the forefront of this offense. Again, you needed these guys to get going, and they finally did get going a little bit in this series. If this can carry over, it's a really great sign for the Boston Red Sox, but obviously there's a whole lot more to break down here, and before we do, a quick word from today's sponsor. The weather is getting colder, the leaves are starting to change here, and for baseball fans, that means stressful games are coming, right? But for sports fans in general, it's a fantastic time of year. The football season is back, and the next great touchdown is coming. Now you can bet on it. That's why, for the entire month of September, we are partnering with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, on DraftKings, new users bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, on top of getting $200 off YouTube and YouTube TV's Sunday NFL ticket. That is one heck of an offer, and to take advantage of this offer, go head over to DraftKings.com/RedSeat or use code RedSeat to sign up today. With their user-friendly app, you can take your Sundays to the next level. Thank you very much to DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. Please don't forget to gamble responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Let's get back to the video. Because they weren't alone offensively in this series. I think 2 really good signs for the Boston Red Sox is that the Red Sox were starting to get clutch hits. Jarren Duran had maybe the clutchest hit he's hit all season, right? Which was that home run in, what was it, the first or the second game against the lefty, when it really felt like this game was going to be absolutely terrible. Regardless, Jarren Duran in this series, he had a hit in every single game. He scored a run in every single game. All good signs for him, especially at the leadoff spot. We've been talking about the leadoff spot being an issue basically since Roman went down. Someone needed to take the reins, and Duran has had his moments recently, but overall has been very inconsistent since the second half began. So this is a great sign, right? Again, you're talking about, okay, we don't need these guys to fully turn their seasons around. We just need to have a couple of these guys get hot. And if a couple of these guys get hot, all of a sudden this offense looks a little bit better. Romy Gonzalez had some clutch hits. Rob Refsnyder had some clutch hits. Masataka Yoshida putting the ball in play. He's not tearing the cover off the baseball. Still only has 2 home runs on the season, but he had a couple of RBIs. He had a couple of hits in here as well. Didn't really strike out a ton. That's really, really great news. I mean, this series was legitimately the first time in a little bit now. It felt like the offense was really in charge of this boat, right? For a little bit, honestly, for the last month, it really felt like, okay, if the Red Sox are going to win these games, they're going to have to get just simply enough runs where the pitching can sort of dominate and take over. This was kind of the first series, and obviously the last game had issues, and I understand that, but in the series as a whole, this was really the first one in a minute where you sat there and thought, okay, it feels like this offense is really rowing this boat. That to me is a fantastic sign. On the pitching side of things, I think there's also things we can call out, right? Kyle Harrison made his Red Sox starter debut, and he looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, 6 innings, just 1 earned run, walked just 2 guys and struck out 5. That was a big time start from a guy who has never started a game for the Boston Red Sox. And on the other side of things, I am a tiny bit worried about Garrett Crochet. I still think he's going to be an effective pitcher down the stretch, but it just feels like just a little bit here because he still has that dominant swing and miss stuff. But, you know, I'm not sure if it's really wear and tear is the right word. Maybe fatigue a little bit, right? Where he's just missing his spots oh so slightly, like 2 or 3 times a game, and it feels like every single time he's doing that, a ball is just getting absolutely launched, right? I mean, again, he's still controlling games and making sure that the score stays low, but it's just every once in a while, it's like, oh, whoa, wait a second here, right? That's not what we've seen from Garrett Crochet this year, so it's something to keep an eye on. Conley Early finally looked human, but at the same time, too, he was able to minimize damage, which I thought was really impressive for, again, a kid who's only made 2 other starts in Major League Baseball. So, I don't know. Like, the pitching-wise, I think you're okay, right? Chris Murphy was terrible, but you also had a what, 6-7 run lead, 8 run lead at the time. So even though he was terrible, it didn't really affect the outcome of the game all that much. Again, Alex Cora totally, in my opinion, mismanaged the bullpen in the finale of this one. But there are things that we could point to negatively, but I also think it's important to remember the positives as well in this one. And what does this do to the Red Sox postseason wise? It's actually pretty big. If they had swept this series, they would have put themselves in honestly a bit of a comfortable position down these last 6 games. But right now, because they were able to win this series, the last 2 series of the year, they get a little bit easier to deal with. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but a little bit easier to deal with. If they are able to go 3-3 the rest of the way, essentially what that would force the Guardians or the Astros or both to do here would be to go almost perfect, right? They essentially have 1 or 2 losses they can take and still outpace the Red Sox some way, somehow. Realistically, it's only 1 that these other teams can lose if the Red Sox are somehow able to win a series either against the Blue Jays or the Tigers and avoid a sweep. Because even if they end up tying one of these teams, the Red Sox still have the tiebreaker for both of these guys. So essentially what you just did is you put both the Astros and the Guardians back squarely up against the wall, while you also gave yourself just a tiny bit of breathing room. Again, not too much, you're not sitting there being like, okay, you know what, it's going to be easy for the Sox to get in, but you are seeing the path a little bit better, right? You're coming out of this series in a bit of a different situation. I mean, it's similar in terms of the standings itself, but every single win right now changes your path to the postseason, so being able to win more than you're losing is obviously going to make that a little bit easier. And just simply confidence and camaraderie wise, right, with this clubhouse right now, they have to be feeling much different coming into this series than they are coming out of it. I think that's important too, right? Just gaining that confidence to remember, hey, we can do this, right? We can fend off attackers. We can put ourselves in a good spot. We've been doing this all season. This is a big move. Now essentially what you're trying to see here is, can they go 500 the rest of the way, right? Can they pull out something that's going to allow them to win a series in Toronto or win a series back home against the Tigers, who are just 1-9 in their last 10 games, right? If you can find a way to do that, you're probably going to be in the playoffs. If you win both of these series, you might end up with the top wild card or the second wild card spot as well. So, a little bit of positive, a little bit optimistic here. And to be able to do that, they actually got a big bat back as well. Because I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but the Red Sox did have a familiar name in the lineup last night, because before yesterday's game, the Red Sox had made a big move. They DFA'd catcher Ali Sanchez in order to bring back outfielder Wilyer Abreu. Now, we actually talked about Ali Sanchez on Saturday, right? We did a whole video about me being like, hey man, why is this guy on this team? We talked about this, right? It was a very large possibility that Ali Sanchez was just simply a placeholder for Wilyer Abreu. With Nick Sogard and Nate Eaton being legitimate contributors over the last few days, days, specifically Nate Eaton, who I think is legitimately becoming a almost mainstay in this Red Sox offense, right? You gotta find a way to fit this guy into more games here, especially with Wilyer Abreu back, but both those guys were being productive. Ali Sanchez was just simply in a break glass in case of emergency type role. If you can utilize that instead to put a guy who's incredibly versatile like a Nick Sogard in there, I think you've made your roster a little bit better. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world, and should make all the sense in the world to you, that this was the move the Red Sox had. But back to Wilyer Abreu, I'm pretty excited about this. Yes, I know last night was not exactly a exciting way for Wilyer Abreu to come back to Major League Baseball, going 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, wearing a golden sombrero back in your first game. Not exactly what you want to see, but at the same time, too, I'm willing to give him a mulligan. Right? I think everyone should be willing to give him one mulligan here because, one, he hasn't played baseball in a month, and two, he didn't get a rehab assignment, right? So last night was essentially his rehab assignment. Now, this can't happen for 3 or 4 games because that's a majority of the season left, but, taking your day, making sure that, you're getting back in shape a little bit, then getting an off day and getting back in there could be exactly what he needs. I think that was a good plan by the Boston Red Sox. Even if Wilyer Abreu isn't like some hottest hitter in baseball type stuff, if he just ends up hitting what he's been hitting this year, which is a 250 average with a 322 on base percentage and a 480 slug, that'd be a huge boost for this offense, right? I think really what he needs is he just needs that first big hit, that first big moment back, and he'll be like, oh yeah, I remember how to do this thing, right? Pop a couple of home runs between now and the end of the season. I think he could really help. And all of a sudden you're looking at it and you're like, well, wait a second. This offense could actually be pretty good, right? Down the stretch, they could be pretty decent. You got Jarren Duran starting to find his consistent stride a little bit. Again, still an impactful player, but has been a little bit inconsistent lately. Bregman starting to find his swing again. Story, who's been consistent for a while now. You add in Wilyer Abreu, then you add in Ceddanne, Massa, right? And all of a sudden, you're looking at the top of this order and you're saying, wait a second, that's a little bit formidable. Right, the Red Sox haven't had a real formidable offense essentially since Roman Anthony went down, outside of like a couple of breakout games here. So that's a really, really good sign in my opinion. And I think getting Wilyer Abreu is absolutely going to help to that. At the bare minimum too, at least you're getting this good defense back in the outfield, right? We've been kind of begging for Willie to come back because you need that power offensively. You're not really getting a ton of power specifically from the left-hand side right now. I mean, look, overall, last night was a bit of a damper, wasn't it? I mean, you go out there and for 2 games, you look like you're alive again. You look like you're playing Red Sox brand of baseball again. You're swiping bags, you're hitting gaps, you're striking dudes out, right? You're putting together legitimate ABs with runners in scoring position, and then all of a sudden you come out last night and you look exactly like the team that we've been very, very mad at for the last month or so. But it's impossible to ignore how many good signs there were in this series, right? How much good news came out of this series. So we could take a look at the one bad game, or we could take a look at the 2 good games and say which one's going to outweigh the other. Right, and in my opinion, right now, even in that bad game, you had moments from Bregman, you had moments from Ceddanne, you had moments from Duran, right? And all of a sudden, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, even though the Red Sox lost, and even though the Red Sox made some terrible decisions in that game, you can see how that carryover from the first couple of games is going to continue. And to me, that's the biggest takeaway. Right, because right now, again, it's not so much about how strong you look over these last 6 games. It's how can you fend off your attackers and stay in a postseason spot. And if you're able to do that, I don't care how you get there. Right, I don't care if you have to score 25 runs a game. I don't care if you have to score 2 runs a game and the pitching carries you. All I care about is this team getting to the postseason. And what we saw, in my opinion, in this series was a good sign that they're going to be able to do that. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see, right? They've got 2 big series against 2 very formidable opponents, and the Houston Astros and Guardians have their own fight that they're putting up as well. So it's going to be a dogfight to the end. We knew this, but I was really happy with what I saw in this series overall. But maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below. What are your takeaways from this series? What do you think about the news of Wilyer being back? What do you think about this offense, this pitching staff, some of the decisions that were made with this pitching staff? And how do you think this impacts their chances of a postseason in 2025? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. As always, if you want to listen instead of watch, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.